Hey there, it is Irene Lyon. Welcome to this video, to this YouTube channel, and to this world of healing trauma, nervous system health, and all things neuroplasticity. I first off want to say thank you for clicking on this video and being here, whether you are brand new and this is your first time watching one of my videos, whether you've been here for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or more. Thank you for continuing to show up and listen and learn. And today it's going to be more of a freestyle because I wanted to reiterate some of the more important and essential pieces to working with our human physiology, why it is so important for us to know how to feel but also bring down our stress levels, and why right now more than ever we really need to be careful and cautious of not getting sucked into what I have been talking about over the last few months, the survival spin cycle. I said this a few months ago, I think when I was teaching with one of my groups, and I just sort of had this image of a tornado, of a washing machine, of this spin cycle of survival stress. And I've written about this in the past. I'll post some of these articles below where I talk about how as a human race, we have been in some ways born into chronic stress. There is just this trauma that we are either born into, whether it's in utero, whether it's past generational trauma, whether it's what happened when we were born, whether it was the lack of attunement, connection, all the bad stuff that occurs to human beings. It's really being bubbled up to the surface right now. And it's imperative that all of us pause and recognize how we have been living in the past, that it is not serving us. It's not serving not only us, but our young, our children. Whether you have children or not, our children, many of them are frightened right now. It's not good, right? It's just not good. They don't deserve the level of fear that is being put into them, just through the energies of the world. So we need to take care of our children, our communities, our pets, our plants, our environment, and really the energy that we push out, whether through our mind, through our words, through our emotions, through our actions, to those who we might not even know, whether it's passerby on the streets, people that we don't know, folks who we're projecting onto. I mean, the list is long, long, long. But this concept, this ability to know how to work with our physiology and not get hijacked, not get spun into the survival spin cycle. We know it all too well. And to riff on a few older topics I've talked about, this concept of how we were wired when we were young, how our neurological pathways, how our biochemical pathways, how our somatic pathways, how our entire way of relating to the world, if we were brought up in some form of stress, chronic stress, environment that wasn't safe, seeing things that aren't safe, feeling like we are unable to be who we are and really put a stake in the ground and say, this is me, this is how I am, and say it like it is, and still stand tall and secure and with good life force energy, even when others might not fully get it or disagree or try to put us down. We really need to feel into our, we could say, personal sovereignty, our power, our life force energy. But of course, if we've never had that, and I'm going to talk really generally right now, many of us never had this, ever. And we are here, and the whole self-help, fitness, wellness, mindfulness, meditation, yada, 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 this entire probably billion-dollar industry has been created because we are suffering. We are in this survival spin cycle, which then of course ripples out to chronic illness, mental illness, toxic relationships, abuse, violence, yada, yada, yada. Just kind of the list is long, as I mentioned a second ago. So it's what we've known too often and too well. So I'm kind of painting this doom and gloom picture to put a foundation down to say, this is how we have been, and it's okay. It's okay. We didn't know any better. Some of us have been having inklings. We know that there's a different way, and we try so hard to heal ourselves, to practice good behavior change strategies, to have goals and mantras and meditations and to-do lists, and we set up everything in our life to be successful. But then something comes along and it literally smacks us over because it isn't what we were expecting. Our routine, our habits, our ways of working with ourselves and taking our stress down, it's been for specific things. And then something comes along that we aren't expecting, and then it's like we have to go back to the drawing board again and figure it out all over again. And it's exhausting because then we start to diminish our personal power, our personal intelligence, our intuitive knowing that is in our system. It is in our DNA. Our system knows how to heal, but the programming, the matrix, if you will, the blaming, the shaming, the finger pointing, the divide that's just being created and so obvious right now in so many ways. It's very, very easy to get sucked into that divide and trapped in it. And before we know it, we don't know where we are. And there needs to be a continually checking in, a checking in with not just my practices and what I do to stay healthy and well with my body, my mind, my activity, my sleep, etc., but to keep checking in with whether or not I am being pulled back into this survival spin cycle, because it's there every single day, 24/7, every moment of the day, we can get pulled into it. And, here's the thing. There's no shame in getting pulled into it. It's whether or not we are recognizing at some point, oh, I've just gone over there again. Course correct. Back to my true essence, back to my biological intelligence, back to listening to me, not all these other things that are all around us. So some of the basics to helping us stay out of that survival spin cycle and helping us to relieve and ameliorate and shift stress, chronic stress that pops up in one moment. We could call that acute stress. Old memories, old fears that come in today, fears that might come in tomorrow or next week or next month. One of the key things to remember, and I'm going to move through them, is this importance of connecting to the earth. I know it sounds kind of cliche, and I've spoken about the importance of staying connected to the environment. I've done some videos on what it means to be grounded, what it means to understand that we as human beings are part of this earth. We are nature. We are organic, biological, mineral material. There's a reason why we have to eat food that comes from the earth. If we think of vegetables and grains and that, we need that sustenance because we are part of it. And then of course we bring in food and we excrete and we put that back out into the organism that is the earth. So number one, connecting to the earth. How you do that is going to be very individual. But some ideas can be working with the knowledge that there are beautiful elements of nature in our environment. You might not be living in, say, a beautiful forest or right by the ocean near a park. You might not, but there is this thing that we have called an imagination. There is this thing called visualization, being able to feel, and even if you sense right now, the trees in the world, because there are many of them. The dirt, the earth that grows our food, our vegetables, right? The minerals in the ground, in the sand by the beach, the ocean, the water that houses the life within water, whether it's a river, stream, an ocean, etc. Even a swamp has life in it. The ability to connect to the air, the oxygen. I know that's above ground, but it still feeds our entire existence as human beings. Oxygen is created from the trees. The trees absorb there's just so much goodness when we connect to the earth plane and connect to just the physical structure that is there, right? The microbes, the bacteria, the viruses, the insects, the animals. There's so much good life. And us humans are part of it, but because of this higher brain that is unique to us and us only, as far as we know here on this planet, it has this capacity to get stuck in that spin cycle I was talking about. And then it forgets. It forgets that we are organic, that we are nature, that we are part of this earth, and that we need to connect to the earth to stay grounded, to stay sane, to stay healthy. It goes without saying that when we take care of ourselves, we are more likely to take care of our earth planet because we are relating with it in a different way. So I often say when I'm teaching, whether it's through some of my audio lessons that you can get on my site, whether it's through my classes, my programs, my workshops, connect to the environment. And I say that in a very loose way because it might be something as simple as feeling the ground under you right now. I'm sitting on a wooden stool. As I'm talking to you, I can sense how my pelvis is on it. I can sense how I can move a little left and right. And even as you're listening to this, what would it be like for you to connect to that? Whether you have to close your eyes, keep them open, maybe you have to feel your pelvis and go, oh yeah, that's right, I'm here. I've been talking, so your higher brain, your intellect, your cognition might be more firing and you may have disconnected from this body. If that happened, that's okay. This is, I would say 90% of the time, folks go into this work, they're not aware that they can have both intellectual cognition on board at the same time as they feel their body, as they feel their sensations, and as they sense the world around them, as they hear the birds chirping outside, which I can, as I hear a truck going down my alley. We have got so much intelligence in this noggin of ours and in our intelligence within the body, and yet we've trained them separately, right? We do mind-based work, puzzles, and then we do body-based work, yoga. We do mind-based things like reading or journaling, and then we do body-based things like exercising. Then we do energy things like Reiki. We do more spiritual things like meditation, and we have them all in these specific places. Nothing wrong with that, but it's missing a few pieces because we are connected as this entity, this being, this human that has the capacity to hold all those things at the same time. I'm going to make a parallel. A lot of people say, and I do as well, we are all one. All humans, all animals, us and the dirt, us and the slugs, us and the birds, us and oxygen, we're all connected. We could say we're this super consciousness, right? Think about it this way. If each human being is separating how they practice their different parts, we are disconnecting ourselves. We aren't healing as a unified organism and how this organism of ours connects with the environment. That means that if we aren't practicing and learning and getting an education and an apprenticeship with this human system of ours, and how to connect with it and the environment all as one, like bringing all the pieces together, it will be very difficult for us to understand that we influence the collective of humans on the other side of this planet, or animals on the other, up in the north of where I am, or in the south of South America. We won't make the connection. It'll be disconnected. Okay, so I started with this concept of how do we connect with the earth? How do we connect with the environment? This ability to connect with and feel, visualize the dirt, the grass, the water, the mountains, the trees, the animals, the bugs, the oxygen, to imagine how we are connected with that. And then further to that, some other more sort of basic things. If you have the ability to be outside and have grass, it doesn't have to be beautiful, lush country valley grass. It can just be the grass that's outside of your house on a little strip. It could be the grass that is at a soccer pitch, or a grass that is in a parking lot before you go into the store. Sometimes there's these little patches of grass. It could be the dirt that is there. You know, the other day I was walking, and this child was with her, I can't remember, doesn't matter. Child was with its parents, walking with their bare feet on the pavement. As soon as that little one went to walk on the dirt, which to them was no big deal, Dad said, "Don't walk on that, it's dirty." Which, you know, fair enough. If it was filled with dog shit, then don't walk on it, because of course there are a lot of people who don't pick up after their dog. But let's just say it was just dirt. To me, at least to me personally, that pavement is more dirty than that dirt, because there are more people walking on that pavement. Don't be afraid to get into the dirt. Don't be afraid if you have plants, when you're watering them, touch the soil. Feel, touch. Do they need moisture? Are they dry? Feel the leaves. There's a reason why so many people love to garden. That's not my thing. Some people do. Some people love it. Some people don't like it. But one of the reasons I think people love to garden is it's getting into the dirt. It's getting into the roots, into the aliveness of our soil, of our environment. It's connecting us with that basic earth life force energy. Okay, so mentioning again how we can start to relieve stress, work with our bodies in the here and now, connecting to the environment. Water is another way that we can do it. Now, I've mentioned touching your feet, walking on grass, standing on grass, feeling it, being with dirt, however you might be able to do that. Water. Now, again, I'm lucky I have an ocean right by me. I can walk down to the beach. I can put my feet into the ocean. Some people might be by a river. Even getting a bucket of water in your home, could be warm water, it could be hotter water, just, you know, that kind of nice sort of bath-like quality. It could be cool water. But there's something about immersing or being in water that brings that fluid feeling back to us. And human beings are vastly made up of fluid, whether it is our blood, our lymph, the fluid in our eyes, in our cells. We have a lot of water in our bodies in different forms. And again, if we are living in just this kind of inanimate, you know, pencils, Post-it notes, glass, I mean, there's water in there, computers, things that don't have that fluid and that flow, we as human beings that are very much made up of water, we forget that we have this flow. There's a reason why people love to, well, a lot of people do, soak in the ocean, swim in a lake, just lay there and just lounge. There's this buoyancy, this fluid nature. So again, you got to be creative. It might be a bath in your home. It might be a shower. It might be getting a soup pot and filling it up with water and dunking your feet in there and just feeling the water going over your feet. So water is one way to, again, connect with the environment, connect with nature, and connect with another element that we have here on this beautiful planet of ours. Okay. So environment, we've got dirt, grass, water. Another thing that can be really basic for connecting with the body, connecting with our biology, I've mentioned this many times over, is listening to our biological impulses. So this might be something as simple as being more tuned to when you are thirsty, drinking water when you are thirsty. It could be hunger cues, being better at listening to your hunger cues, eating when you're hungry, not eating when you're full, stopping when you are full, and listening to the cravings of what your system wants and needs. Now, of course, this is a whole other topic in itself, but I have found the more people connect to themselves, the environment, to their true nature, and they start to listen to these impulses, they start to know what their body needs. Other parts to following impulses would be being able to listen to your internal physiology. We would call this interoception. So for example, again, something I teach my students is, how do you listen to your bladder? How do you listen to your rectum? I've mentioned these before, but if we are ignoring our basic physiological impulses, the inner workings of our body, if we are ignoring the fact that we have to go pee or take a poop, or if we are holding in a sneeze, or if we're holding in a cough, if we're holding in a burp, or the need to pass gas, anytime we stop those natural biological impulses, we kill the flow in our body, and then we become less connected to it. To reconnect, to go back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, how we disconnect all these pieces, we need to bring them together. And part of that is learning how to follow our impulses and listen to our physiology. We were taught from such a young age to hold it in. You can't go to the bathroom until this time. You don't eat until noon. We eat at 6. You only have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with 2 snacks in the middle. We have been programmed with these rules of how to listen to our impulses, to get sustenance, to say no, to say yes. And it's just created a mess, really. And again, not to be all doomsday on you, you might be surprised when you start to listen to these impulses, when you start to connect to the environment, to the earth, these elements, these basic elements of our environment and ourselves, we start to shift quite quickly. And it can be almost too simple to the point where it isn't so extravagant that we say, oh, well, that's just too simple. I'm not going to do that. I want some fancy technique that has all these bells and whistles so that I can relieve stress. I need a fancy app. I need a fancy breathing exercise, all these things. Some of these things have a time and place. But I believe we're at a point right now where we have to get back to the basics. We have to get back to the elemental nature that is being a human being here on planet Earth. And environment is super important to connect to. Our impulses, super important to connect to. And the third thing I am going to add in here for helping our system come down and out of this survival spin cycle is movement. Now, movement takes on so many different categories because I have learned in my many years, especially when I was in fitness, back in my 20s, people can get addicted to movement, right? I have seen people who are fitness addicts, yoga addicts, they've killed their bodies, they've tortured their bodies to the point where they don't even feel that they're injuring themselves. So when I say movement, I don't mean movement that is addictive, that harms and breaks down the body. I mean things that are more natural, walking, dancing, being creative with the movement, and there are so many practices, again, that are teaching people how to get back into the flow, whether it's a dance class, a 5 rhythms class, a Tai Chi, a Qigong, just so many options right now. Again, yoga, great thing to do, but are you listening to the impulses into the body? So again, movement is important, whether it's physical activity, some kind of movement practice, but are you bringing to that movement practice, to that physical activity, connection to the body? Are you feeling how your body is connected to the environment? When you go out for a walk, are you so plugged in to the phone and to the podcast and to all these things that you aren't even seeing the cars, the people, the birds? You're not hearing the wind through the trees. Again, we've disconnected from so much that is around us that I think we just aren't moving in a way that is natural, and our natural movement abilities get kind of stunted when we're thinking about all these other things, or we're doing all these other things while we're moving, like listening to something. Now, I will listen to a podcast when I'm out. I will listen to music when I'm exercising. And I'm also paying attention to the ground under me, the trees. Every now and again, I'll take them out, I'll reorient. So there's nothing wrong with listening to something while we're moving, but are we completely disconnected from the body? That would be the question I would ask you. And so again, however you choose to move, whether it's gentle movement, vigorous movement, hiking, biking, yoga at home, aerobics at home, jazzercise at home, it doesn't matter. Is there a connection to the environment? Is there a connection to your impulses? And are you bringing joy and goodness into that movement? Or is it being done because you just have to do it and this is what you were told to do? It's the same with eating healthy, right? To kind of take a piece from nutrition. Many people that I have worked with over the years have impeccable diets, but they have such anger towards the eating practices and the strict and stringent routine that they've put themselves on. This is how eating disorders start. So again, nothing wrong with eating clean, but how are we relating to that eating? How are we relating to ourselves internally when we eat that good food? Is it positive or is it negative? Is it filled with a lot of that survival spin energy, or is it filled with a connection to ourselves, the earth, our impulses, and of course the flow in our body? Okay, so this video has been a little different. We could consider it sort of this overarching situation we're in right now as human beings that has been building and building and building, kind of like a dam since the beginning of time. We have created so many amazing things and practices to keep us from reacting, to keep us from diving into this fear response over and over again. And yet, even with all this intelligence and amazing practice, we're finding ourselves, I'm seeing really intelligent people getting sucked into this survival spin cycle, getting sucked into the programs, getting sucked into not listening to their own internal intelligence that is in their DNA, that has been, as some people would say, dormant. It's been asleep. And when our DNA is asleep, we can move along like sheep and not question anything, not listen to anything, because it's numbed out, right? There's parallels here to dissociation of the nervous system and the body and the mind. We've disconnected. And so now more than ever is our time to shine and show up as human souls, as human beings, as humans connected to the earth, connected to the environment, connected to our biology. We've got to bring all the pieces together so that first we can become one within ourselves. When we do that, when we are connected to ourselves and we are one, when we are listening to our physiology and we're listening to the environment and how we relate to it, we do not want to stay in the survival spin cycle. It doesn't feel good. It'll turn us off. It'll make us go gross. I don't want that. But if we're asleep and if we're being sheep-like and we're just following the masses, we won't even know that we're on that God, it's like a merry-go-round that we can't get off of. It's fun, it's nice, but it's dizzying us in some ways. And so part of this, I think, purpose, this next evolution that I think we can all say we're feeling, there's something that's being shook up, something's bubbling up to the surface. There's this seismic shift that has to occur. I believe personally that it's going to happen when each person can bring all their pieces together and really listen. And when we really listen, we do know what is right and wrong. We know how to treat ourselves, and we know how to treat others, and we know how to treat the earth, because we've connected to the earth and we've realized that we are part of this earth. So that's all I have for today. Thank you for listening to this. Listen to your system. That's what I will say. Listen to your system. Have you been practicing all the mind, body, healing stuff in these separate pieces, right? This is at this time, this is at this time, this is only on Friday, I only do this on Sunday, right? I mean, we do even do it with how people practice their spiritual practices. Church is always on Sunday or maybe Saturday, but never on Wednesday, right? Some, not all. And so how can we change that? How can we change that to see a different way? To see a different possibility that involves this goodness in our system that is really there. It's there. It wants to be there because it's there. We just have to uncover all the junk and the gunk that has poisoned our ability to think for ourselves, feel for ourselves, be connected to the earth, be connected to the goodness that is here. When we can trip into this next level, I believe things are gonna speed up and change really quickly for the better. So thank you for being here. If you haven't yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do. Click on the subscribe. Follow me via my social media feeds. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, all of them. If you haven't joined my email list, please do so via my site, irenelyon.com. Videos like this every Monday. Thank you for being here again, and we will see you next time.